Everyone watching Rivers State politics in May 2026 expected the same story. Wike controls the APC. Wike controls the screening committee. Wike decides who gets a ticket and who gets caught. His people sail through. Everyone else hits a wall. And for the most part, that is exactly what happened. Fubara's allies were blocked. His preferred assembly candidates were rejected. The governor himself was given a cold shoulder at the APC screening venue, walked out visibly angry, and eventually withdrew from the race entirely. Wike's plan, by every visible measure, was working. And then the APC published its list of disqualified senatorial aspirants, and one name on that list stopped political observers cold. Not a Fubara's ally, not an opposition figure. Ojukaye Flag Amachree, a man who had been publicly named by Wike himself as one of his preferred gubernatorial options, a man who attended Wike's rallies, whose career track sits squarely inside the structure Wike built, was disqualified by the same committee that cleared every other Wike loyalist on the senatorial list. That one name changes the story entirely, because it tells you that what is happening in Rivers State is not just a war between Wike and Fubara. It is also a war inside Wike's own coalition, and that war has consequences for every political calculation in Rivers State going into 2027. Ninja Brief gives you the detail that changes the story. Subscribe now, and let's break this down properly. Before we get to the twist, you need to understand who these people are, because Nigerian political coverage often names political actors without explaining the structural weight they carry. Dakori Nama George Kelly is a quantity surveyor and civil engineer who served as Commissioner for Works under Wike when he was governor of Rivers State. That role placed him at the operational center of the most ambitious infrastructure program in Rivers' recent history. Billions of naira in road construction, the projects that Wike used to build his political brand. George Kelly did not just manage contracts, he was the face of delivery. He is from the Kalabari axis, the riverine ethnic bloc that also produced Fubara, which makes him a direct competitor for the same ethnic constituency. He contested the PDP governorship primary in 2022 and finished second to Fubara. He never left Wike's orbit. He resigned twice from positions under Fubara as acts of political solidarity with his mentor. As of May 2026, he was Director General of the Border Communities Development Agency under the Tinubu federal government. Another federal appointment credited to Wike's influence. Ojukaye Flag Amachree is a political veteran from Asari Toru LAGA in the Kalabari Kingdom, a coastal, riverine constituency with deep significance in Rivers' political geography. He was chairman of Asari Toru for 9 years, from 2003 to 2012, during which he navigated one of the most volatile security environments in the Niger Delta, managing armed groups including factions associated with Asari Dokubo and Ateke Tom, and delivered consistent local governance. He later chaired the Rivers State APC from February 2018 to October 2020, holding the party together through legal crises and defection pressures. He served in the office of the National Security Advisor under President Tinubu as a director dealing with energy security, a role tied directly to Niger Delta security concerns. Wike cited him publicly at the Abalama Thanksgiving reception in March 2025 as evidence of his support for Ijaw political inclusion, naming him and George Kelly as his nominated choices for the Rivers State political structure. Both men are Kalabari. Both men are publicly aligned with Wike. Both men were positioned at different points in 2026 as potential vehicles for Wike's 2027 ambition in Rivers State. One of them made an orderly exit. The other was cut out. Understanding why explains the real state of Wike's grip on Rivers State politics.
On May 17, 2026, the APC published the results of its Rivers State senatorial screening exercise. The aspirants seeking the Rivers West Senatorial District ticket, the most politically significant senatorial seat in the state, covering Fubara's home axis and Wike's key riverine constituency, were assessed by the committee. Those who were cleared included Felix Obua, a Wike loyalist and former PDP chairman who has an, in the words of political analysts, enviable working history with Wike. He sailed through. Those who were disqualified included Senator Ipalibo Harry Banigo, the incumbent senator and former deputy governor under Wike, cut for alleged political neutrality during the Fubara crisis. Tami Danagogo, former SSG who served both Wike and Fubara, cut for failing to align publicly with Wike. Tain Jack Rich, businessman and former presidential aspirant, cut. And on the same list, in the same statement, Ojukaye Flag Amachree. Let that land. Wike named Flag Amachree publicly in March 2025 as one of his picks for political advancement. Flag Amachree attended Wike's political events. His work in the energy security space under Tinubu was positioned as an extension of the Wike political network operating inside the federal executive. Yet the APC screening committee, operating in everyone's analysis under Wike's effective influence, disqualified him from the senatorial race. The APC's official statement gave no reasons for any of the disqualifications. Its publicity secretary simply listed the names. No explanation, no criteria, no public rationale. Political observers and Flag Amachree's own supporters were left reading tea leaves. One human rights activist publicly warned that the disqualifications risked triggering internal crisis within the Rivers APC. The implication was clear. The screening had produced a result that did not follow the simple logic of Wike loyalist in, everyone else out. There are two readings of what happened to Flag Amachree. The first, a paperwork problem. APC screening committees across the country disqualified aspirants for procedural grounds, late party membership, dues records, affidavit errors. The disqualification may have had nothing to do with political intent and everything to do with administrative compliance. If Flag Amachree joined the APC recently, as many former PDP members did during the Rivers political realignment, his party membership tenure may not have met the required threshold. The second, a political signal. The Wike coalition is not monolithic. It contains factions with competing interests, the Ikwere bloc represented by Chinda, the older APC bloc represented by Obua, and the Kalabari Riverine bloc represented by both George Kelly and Flag Amachree. If two Kalabari figures are competing for political real estate and only one can be advanced, the screening committee becomes the mechanism for internal coalition management, not just a tool against Fubara. Either reading tells you something important. The Wike coalition is under internal pressure. George Kelly's story is different from Flag Amachree's, and the difference is instructive. Kelly did not get cut, he withdrew. On May 20, 2026, the same day Governor Fubara announced his own withdrawal from the APC governorship primary, George Kelly issued a statement through Channels Television saying he was stepping down. His language was careful and revealing. He said his decision followed a crucial stakeholders meeting convened by the national leadership of the APC, where deliberations focused on the future of the party in Rivers State and the need for unity and strategic alignment. He described himself as a committed member of the Rivers State Rainbow Coalition for President Bola Tinubu under the leadership of FTT Minister Nyesom Wike, and he pledged his continued commitment to securing victory for our president, our party, and the good people of Rivers State. Read that statement carefully. There is no mention of Chinda, the man who ultimately emerged as the sole APC governorship aspirant. There is no endorsement of Chinda. There is no transfer of loyalty to a specific candidate. There is a restatement of loyalty to Wike, to the APC, and to Tinubu in that order. Political analysts who tracked this closely noted something else. Kelly did not step down before Fubara withdrew. He stepped down hours after Fubara withdrew. The sequencing matters. Kelly's withdrawal was not a precondition for peace. It was a response to Fubara's exit, a reading of the room that said, "With Fubara gone, the primary purpose of my candidacy, which was to occupy the Kalabari Riverine lane and prevent Fubara from winning it, has been achieved." Kelly was not a casualty of the political war. He was a piece that had served its purpose. The APC meeting that preceded his withdrawal reportedly included figures from across the Rivers political spectrum working to consolidate the field behind Chinda. Kelly's exit was orderly because it was managed, not because it was forced. That is what political loyalty in the Wike system looks like when it functions correctly. The piece moves when it is asked to move and moves with language that preserves its own political relevance for the next cycle. Flag Amachree's disqualification tells you what happens when the system does not function correctly. Drop your take in the comments. Is Ojukaye Flag Amachree's disqualification a paperwork error or a political signal? Read the room and tell me what you think is really happening inside Wike's coalition. This is the question the title of this video asks, and it deserves an honest answer, not a sensational one. The honest answer is, not yet, but the cracks are visible. Here is what Wike still controls as of June 2026. He controls the APC Rivers State Majority Executive, the Okocha-led faction that, despite the Court of Appeal ruling, continues to operate and make nominations. He controls 22 of 23 Rivers State LGA chairmen. He controls the Amaewele-led assembly, which has just approved Fubara's MTEF, on Wike's timeline and with Wike's political commentary attached. And he controls the dominant narrative inside the APC primary process. Kingsley Chinda emerged as the sole APC governorship aspirant after every other candidate cleared the field. These are not the markers of a politician losing grip. They are the markers of a politician who completed an operation. But here is what is straining that grip. First, the APC's internal leadership dispute, the Okocha versus Beke chairmanship crisis, is not resolved. The Court of Appeal ruling in May 2026 affirmed the High Court's jurisdiction and struck out the Okocha faction's appeal. The Beke faction, now court-backed, has declared all of Okocha's nominations null and void. That legal cloud hangs over every primary result the Okocha executive has produced, including the assembly screening that cleared Wike's 28 loyalists. Second, the Fubara NDC speculation. Multiple sources in June 2026 reported that Blessing Fubara, believed to be connected to the governor, obtained an NDC governorship nomination form. If Fubara, having been excluded from the APC, re-enters the 2027 race through the NDC, the party that now carries Peter Obi's presidential candidacy, the Rivers governorship race becomes genuinely competitive again. Wike's plan assumed Fubara was politically finished. That assumption may be premature. Third, the Kalabari axis is unsettled. Both George Kelly and Ojukaye Flag Amachree come from the riverine Kalabari constituency. Kelly has stepped back, but not transferred his loyalty formally to Chinda, who is Ikwere. Flag Amachree has been disqualified and has not publicly accepted the outcome. The Kalabari political bloc, which includes Fubara's own ethnic community, has multiple figures with individual ambitions that do not necessarily align with Chinda's candidacy. Ethnic arithmetic in Rivers State means that a Kalabari-Ikwere division inside the Wike coalition gives any opposition candidate, NDC, Labour Party or Independent, a meaningful opening.
Let us translate this from political analysis into practical electoral consequences. In a Rivers State governorship race, the candidate who controls the Kalabari riverine communities, the Ikwere upland axis, and the APC's LGA machinery has an overwhelming structural advantage. Wike's design was to deliver all three. Chinda carries Ikwere by ethnicity, the APC LGA structure delivers the ground game, and the Kalabari lane was to be managed by Kelly or Flag Amachree, both serving as validators of Wike's riverine inclusivity argument. Kelly's withdrawal removed one of those validators from the race without transferring his voters to Chinda. Flag Amachree's disqualification removed the other and generated grievance rather than managed transition. If the Kalabari political community does not coalesce behind Chinda, if it splits, sits out, or migrates to an NDC candidate with Fubara's backing, Chinda's governorship path narrows significantly, even with Wike's LGA machinery. The Ogoni question compounds this. A detailed analysis published by Nigerian media noted that neither the Wike camp's current candidates nor the broader 2027 calculations include meaningful Ogoni representation. The Ogoni, who make up a significant portion of Rivers State's population and whose political consciousness has been sharpened by decades of environmental and political marginalization, have been explicitly noted as absent from current power permutations. An opposition candidacy that speaks to Ogoni grievances, to Kalabari frustration with the screening process, and to the broader sentiment that Rivers governance is being managed from Abuja, that candidacy has a constituency that no primary can screen out. Whether such a candidacy materializes and whether Fubara provides its structural spine through the NDC is the unanswered question that keeps this race genuinely open despite Wike's operational advantages. Wike is not losing his grip on Rivers State, but his grip is not as complete as it appeared from the outside in January 2026, when the peace deal seemed to have delivered every political outcome he sought. George Kelly withdrew cleanly, a managed move that served the coalition's purpose. But Ojukaye Flag Amachree's disqualification was not managed. It was a fracture along the same Kalabari ethnic fault line that runs through Fubara's political base, through the riverine communities that neither Chinda's Ikwere credentials nor Wike's personal relationships can fully close. The question going into 2027 is not whether Wike controls the APC in Rivers State. He does. The question is whether the APC's control of the Rivers governorship primary translates into actual votes from actual people in communities that feel excluded, unseen, and unchosen by a process conducted in Abuja hotels and Aso Rock meeting rooms. That question will be answered by the people of Asari Toru, of Degema, of Kana, of Eche, of Obio Agbo, not by anyone in a party secretariat. And those people are watching. Share this video with one person trying to understand what is really happening in the Rivers 2027 race. Not just who won, but why the cracks matter. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next.